Hello, so we're going to go ahead and start this video. I'm making a 2D space shooter game, and I'm showing you some of the functionality here of that game. I'm going to try to pause between items to show you my bullets feature list and the feature list as well inside of the Excel files. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Let me go ahead and bring that up. I'm going to pause it to bring it up. So you'll probably see me pause a lot during the video to show you the different lists. So right here is a copy of my list here with the bulleted items. So the first thing I have was menu system, followed by player movement. And I'm going to show you how I got the player movement. And I'll probably save the menu system for a bit later in this video. I think I'll start with the player movement first on how I was able to find that in that area here. So let me pause again here. Now player movement is done by a script. So right here is my player script. I don't know if I'm going to be able to bring it up. And yeah, there we go. So we can just go up and down this way here to get it to see. All right, so inside of the player script, I'm on update, so that it's called once per frame. I have my move function. And then if I go down here and I scroll down here, this is the part where you're actually moving the player. So you got to take the sprite. I'm going to show you the sprite here in a minute inside of the Unity. And then the get access is how you get it in order to be able to move it for horizontal and vertical. Time delta time is that you're calling it like every frame. That will mess up your frame rate there on the computer. And then move speed is also handled in the inspector. If I go pop back to the top, right here I made it a serialized move speed 10. That way game designers can also mess with the move speed inside of the inspector. So let me pause again, go back into Unity here. Now I had the get access part of that. So if you go down into edit and you head to the project settings, you'll have that input. So down on input manager. So input manager is kind of like a system. So it's set up inside of Unity for you. Makes it a whole lot easier. Whenever I talk about get access, I'm talking about this input from this input manager system. So that's how, we're getting horizontal, we're getting vertical, in order for them to be able to move. That way the functions of the WASD and the up, down, left, right are already there as part of this input manager system. Let's see if I can move this recording over to the inspector here. Oh, hey, I can just move it this way. Oh, yeah. All right, actually, I need to find my player first, though, in here. Let's do this. All right, now I'm going to move the whole project. Maybe. Come on. Come on, there we go. All right, so this is my player right here. And then inside of the inspector, that player script is attached to it. The sprite render allows you to see it. Ship level 1 is this ship right here. That's the actual sprite itself. And then down here, by making that a serialized field, I can see it in the inspector. So here's the move speed that you can play around. So you can make it like 9 or 8 or whatever speed you want to make it. So the game designers can mess with the move speed inside of it. I'll talk about this padding here in a minute. And I have everything here hooked to it, health and so on and so forth. But that is like within the inspector. Like I said, that you can mess with the move speed inside of here as well. Let me see if I can move it back here. Come on. There we go. There we go. Move back. Oh, man. I did not mean to do that. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Let's pause there for just a second here. So anyways, heading back into that player script. So that get access right there, that is getting the access within that input system. That's why it has input before it. Delta X, delta Y is along the X axis, along the Y axis. you need to call time.delta time so that it works with the frame rate of the computer. Otherwise, it might slow down the computer. And then here's that move speed, because we're times it by the move speed so that you can use the move speed, and it relates to the player. Now down here too, because you need to get the transform, you need to get the position that it's in. So transform position, new vector 2, new x position, new y position means that it's following that sprite around for the movement. And then this MathF clamp we're going to talk about more here in just a little bit. It's part of giving the MathF clamp gives the player boundaries, because otherwise, without boundaries, that sprite's gonna move way off screen. It's in outer space. It moves way out in outer space. Get in outer space. All right, terrible joke. Anyway, it moves way out, away from, like, every time you press W, and it's just gone. So that's part of getting the code to keep it within the boundaries. And it has to do here as well with the viewport to world. So we'll get to that here in just a minute. I'm going to bring up this one though again. Yeah, there we go. See, we was able to do this. So that should be take care of my player movement part inside of here for my code. I also had a features list inside of the Excel file, so that should take, part of the player movement. So like I said, we'll go back to manage system, and we'll head into enemy movement as well. Let me just go ahead and pause there again. Okay, so I think for the purpose of this video, make it a little bit easier, I'm going to just like take them and cross them out here, or highlight them. So we just did player movement. We just discussed that. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. This is like the same sheet. I'm going to go over here. Same thing. There we go. We just discussed player movement, so they're out. Then I'm going to go ahead back in, and I think I'm just going to go in order with the player. I know I was kind of all over the place here, but right here we did say player movement speed, and we discussed how the game designer can change that player movement speed to whatever they want. So we did take care of that one as well. Let me see if I can find it in my Excel. Player movement speed. All right, it's there somewhere. I'll come back and get it. I'll come back and get that one. Okay, so, but we did have it in this one. So I think I'm going to go ahead, and before I go into the enemy movement and pathing and everything, because it's like I'll stick with just the player. And I know I had the boundaries connected to player movement, and it keeps the player on the game screen when moving, because we discussed that slight bit, but I really didn't show you that much about that. So I'm going to go ahead, bring this up again here. Okay, so anyway, so for the player movement, we had to set up some padding. So we have an X padding, Y padding, serialized field makes the float. That way you could also change it in the spectrum. I don't know why you would want to, because it's right on the edge of the screen already, but it's a serialized float, so game designer could change that if they really wanted to. X padding means it's X and it's on the X-axis, Y means it's on the Y-axis. Now, if we head over here into the, right here, I forgot about that, but yeah, this is sprite. This is how we're getting the player sprite. We're putting it in the sprite renderer. And then right here, we have the setup boundaries function in the start function. So, as soon as you start up, they're going to run. You're going to be able to see the player sprite game, and you're going to see, and the boundaries are set up right when you press the start button. Okay, and then over here is where I called my move function again. Fire, we will discuss fire here in a bit. But if we hopped all the way down here, below the player move, because we discussed some of the player move, and that we had to do transform dot position. But right here, minimum is the lowest minimum that it could go. Max is the maximum that it could go, like across the screen. And that MathF clamp is keeping it on the screen. But down here, for the game camera, X-min, X-max, Y-min, Y-max, that's this part. See how it's connected? It is showing that. I can't, yeah, that's videotaping. So, see, That's where they're connected down here. And the game camera is the part where, like, it's the camera where it is here. In just a minute, I'll show you the camera inside the actual Unity project. And viewport to world point is setting that camera up so that it's that you can see it on the screen. And then I'm calling nuke vector free, but these are the X, the Y, and the Z value. So I want it to start at 0, 0, 0. It's like at the center of the screen on the X, and that's the X padding. I want it to start the center Y padding. So that gives you the Y padding as well. And then up at the top, I had the padding also to call it into place. And then right here gives you because that Y is in the middle there, so it gives you the ability to get the padding there as well. Let's see. So now if I can move it over, oh, that's right. I'm just going to pull the whole thing over like this. Probably an easier way to do this, but I'm not sure. Okay, so right here, you could change it in the inspector if the game designers really want to, but right now it's set so that it comes along these sides and along the top, and that it's padded that way, so that it won't go outside of that boundary zone. That's the idea anyway. Okay, so we're going to pause there for a second again. Oh, actually, we're going to bring up this because I just talked about it. So boundaries. So we just did a boundary. Let's do it yellow. There we go. Now we're going to head down here. So I have it all over the place here too. Okay, where are my boundaries here? Oh, wait, I did. And boundaries. Did I put another boundary in here? There it is. Boundaries for player movement. Yeah, there they are. Oh, right there above it is player move speed. Okay, there we go. So I can click it off as well. Okay, so we discussed those now. All right. We're going to pause and go grab something else here. Okay, so I think we're going to just go ahead and do what we need to do with the player first. So if you go back to the player as well, and I got to bring it over again. It's my camera. Oh no. Oh no. Come on. Okay. Actually, let me see if I can get it to move again. There we go. There we go. There we go. Did it again. Did it again. Doing it some more here. Okay, so if I put it over here. And then, there we go. So right here, this is the part that I'm trying to get to show you here. So we have a projectile. So we have a projectiles hooked to this player as well. And I made them serialized fields so that you can mess with the game designer again. And it's on player laser. So we'll show you that here in a minute. But it's projectile speed and projectile firing so that the game designers can mess with this as well. Yeah, polygon collider on everything here. Let me see if I can get to that inside of my prefab folder. I don't think I can bring that up over there, can I? Well, that's kind of stink. All right, there we go. There we go. I am able to somewhat see it. Okay, so this is the player laser. I'll move the information over again. It's just my video software. That's free. So there you go. Okay, so I made this is the software there to connect with the player laser. So you had to take a picture, PNG that you're going to do. So it has a sprite writer, renderer on it. So it's a Missile 3 there. You had to add a 2D rigid body to it, and you needed a box collider on it as well. Down here, we have a damage dealer script. So we're going to go in and take a look at that as well. because it's what is going to be able to uh, give damage to the enemy sprites. And actually, the enemies are also going to use the damage dealer script when they're trying to shoot the player. So let me head into my scripts again. Have you ever? There we go. Whoa, here we go again. All right. And let's go into player again. There we go. There we go. There we go. Okay, so up the top, serialized field. Forget the audio clips for a second. Let's see. So we did the health, but we're not there yet. Private sprite render player sprites, which you can see the sprite. Projectiles. Okay, so for the projectile, in the serialized field, game object laser prefab tells it that it's going to calling it into place. And then I made a serial field, like I said, and I showed you just a minute ago, for the speed and the firing period, so that game designers could change it in the inspector if they wanted to. And then I set up a core routine for this as well, firing core routine, to try to fire, and gives it a break, slight break, but also allows you to press the button and keep firing, so you won't have to like keep tapping the mouse button or keep tapping the space bar. You won't have to tap it again and again and again and again every time you want to shoot. Okay, so they have to be flipped. So X min, X max, Y min, Y max. We said min is minimum, max is maximum. You're getting them along the x-axis. You're getting them around the y-axis. So we're gonna head to, since it was a core routine of firing routine, we're gonna head down there too. And then here, this part is gonna be the damage dealer, but we'll get to that here in a second. Here we go. This is where we're wanting. So for the fire, if input get button down is fire. So if that's the input manager again. So we're getting where I showed you before on the input manager, you're getting that input and the get button down. So if you press that button down, you're going to fire 1. And that will start the fire coroutine, coroutine of fire continuously. So we're going to take a look at fire. It's gone down here. And since it's coroutine, it's going to have an enumerator fire continuously. So that's where we're calling that function. We'll take a look at it in a second. So if input get button up, meaning here I press down on the button, here I release the button. It's not exactly, but that's how you do it for input manager. So you released it when you've stopped pressing on that button. It's going to stop the coroutine, firing coroutine. You're going to stop firing. That way you won't like press the space bar either, and then you don't do anything except move the space around, and then it just fires at the enemy, and that wouldn't be any fun at all either. So, and that just constantly fires without you ever having to press or hold a button. Okay, so anyway, the enumerator is part of a coroutine. So this coroutine is fired continuously, is calling that function. While it's true, while this is while you're pressing the button, basically, while that is true, you're gonna instantiate, meaning the laser, that prefab, that thing that I showed you is going to appear. Laser, bullet, I don't know. So the laser prefab appears, transform dot position. You're getting the position, and then you're getting where it is Quaternion identity as the game jumps. So you're getting the position, you're getting the rotation. Quaternion connects to the rotation of the object. You're getting the component. This is where you're getting making sure that it has a rigid body, so that it can connect. Well, it has functionality there, and that has space inside of the game, and the velocity is kind of like the speed, and you're going to create the new vector 2 and give it the projectile speed. So that's making it move inside of the projectile. The bullet is moving inside of it. This part, this audio source, we'll talk about later. This is how you get it to play the sound. And then return, wait for seconds. So you're just going to wait. You're waiting for a few seconds for it to fire. Okay, so, and then that's basically the end there of getting it to fire. We'll talk about move here, we'll talk about the damage that it does in just a minute. So let me put it here. Projectiles made for the player to shoot. So that's how we made those. And probably need a demonstration too here in a minute. There we go. Constant firing, able to keep firing as long as you press the button down. So we said that's then get button down. You release it, get button up, apply its steps, and then it's released. The delay to button every time can shoot inlay to beat the enemy. So the delay was that part that we just went over. Where to go again? The stop coroutine, firing coroutine, and also yield return. New wait for seconds. So you're waiting a few seconds. That's the shoot inland stream. So I'm gonna pop this here, and this is going to be yellow. And then I think I had colliders for projectiles boundaries. I kind of am covering that, and we said that they all need 2D colliders in order for it to go into the other. So we'll probably go ahead and mark off the colliders for the player because they all have to have the 2D. Why 2D and not 3D? Because they're 2D game objects instead of 3D objects. Let's see. So yeah. I think that was all that one. Let me have back in here. And there, projectiles made for the player. Yep. And do I have any others in here? Colliders for the player. Yep. And we've talked about the boundaries as, oh, well, you have also boundaries for the projectiles too, but we'll get that into that here. Yeah, we definitely have the colliders. And the boundaries that, that you can't go outside of that box so that it doesn't fly off screen, basically. And same thing's going to happen with the projectiles as well. They also have a way that they can't fly off the screen too far for them to disappear. All right, let's pause that for a second. Okay, so we're going to take a look here too, especially since I was trying to mark it off anyway, at the shredder that we have going on, so that the bullets are shredded when they jump outside of the screen. So let's see. So right here is where we're going, and we're doing it on the trigger 2D. Oh, that's the damage. So we'll head to the damage here in just a second. Oh, actually, no, I called it another one, didn't I? Yep, I did. All right, let me minimize this one and go get the shredder script. Now we'll discuss the shredder. Okay, so right here is where we're calling a shredder script, and then on trigger enter 2D. So when it enters that area with the collision, and when it collides with it, you're going to destroy the game object. The game object is that projectile. You're going to destroy that projectile, the laser, the bullet, the whatever you want to call it. You're destroying that so that they don't collect at the top of the screen or something. So inside of this, oh, whoops. If I go here, I might be able to. Let's see, because I have the. Yeah, you probably won't be able to see it at the top of that, will you? So I have the shredder. It's inside of the. Oh! I need to bring it over. There it goes. I see. So I have the shredder script inside of here so that it stops the thing at the top of the screen. Yep. Ah, I hate it when it does that. Really too. Okay, so right here, I fixed it here. So right here is the shredder. You have to click on it there in the hierarchy to get it. So right there is my shredder, and that is that's where it's attached. So if I bring that down, shredder top. Oh, I need to probably bring this over so you can see it. Come on, come here, come here, come here. So there you go, shredder top. It's got a 2D box collider on it, and it has the shredder script so that if it flies, if the projectiles, oh, come on, without behaving yourself there. Okay, so when it flies to the top, when the projectiles, the bullets fly to the top of this screen, they get destroyed. And then they have a 1 at the bottom too. Come on. No, I don't want to change the name. There we go. Right at the bottom. So it's the same thing. It's got a box collider on it, and it's got that shredder script. So that if the bullets fly to the bottom of the screen, they are also destroyed. And we did talk about the main camera there for the movement with the player, which it said about the center, so see center 0, 0, 0, and that the main camera, and it's doing main camera to viewpoint. It's grabbing that main camera on the viewpoint and putting it in there on the part of the screen. Okay, so, and then we said destroy game objects, so yeah, we went over that too. All right, so now I can absolutely take off the projectiles and boundaries. And did I have anything here? Yeah, did the projectiles for the enemy? Oh, no, not yet. Not yet. Projectiles, I said. And we said boundaries. And did I have any other projectiles down here? Particle system, no, not yet. Heading back into it, that's what takes a minute. Oh, there we go. No, that's projectiles for enemies. All right. So we'll pause there for a second again. So that takes care of the projectiles, though, to get the enemy to shoot, and it destroys the projectiles when they go to the edge of the screen, and explains some of the boundaries as well. Okay, so next up we're going to talk a bit about the enemy movement, about the path system, the waypoints, and all that's needed to make the enemies move in this game. So I'm going to minimize this for now. We're going to talk specifically here about these waypoints. I'm just minimizing these. Let me head to my enemies here. Enemies. Nope, not spawner. Not yet. Enemies. Okay, so for my enemies, and I have all these different enemies here for the inside of the thing here. So if I brought this over like this, and now we can see the different parts. So this gives the sprite. So that's the sprite render again to, sorry, the enemies are at the top. Right there, see, so it's actually on it right now. So there's my enemy, and the sprite render, and it's ship 1 is the one that done that. And here in a minute, we're going to see the things that have to do with the wave points as well. But the enemies, they all need the box collider. It's 2D. They all need those Riveter bodies as well. So we're going to go on into these enemy scripts to show what we did here. I also want to try to find the, okay, so that's the shredder. We discussed the shredder. I'm looking for the waypoints. Here we go. Waypoints. Here we go. Okay, so the paths are connected to the waypoints. So I just create empty game object, right click, create empty. So like right click, create empty, and then I created an empty object, and I called them paths. And then I hooked the waypoints waypoints to those paths. And then we'll look at the coding of it here in a second. So if you had that, that is that waypoint there. And then if we head there, that is that waypoint there. We head there, that is that waypoint there. Now, to give them like colors, you can go up to the little thing there at the top, like in the left. If it's without anything, it's like gray. So we'll take a look at that here in a minute. Anyway, you can give them like little colors and things. They don't show up. These things here do not show up in the game when we play the game, but it gives you a reference while you're working on the game so that you can see what on earth you did with each waypoint. So that way I know, okay, that's where I have that one, and that's where I have that one, and that's where I have that one. And then if you go, because I'll go ahead and show you some more here. So like path 1, different waypoints. That waypoint starts all the way up there off screen. That waypoint starts there. That waypoint starts there. So it's going a little bit lower toward the player and then here. So that one, path 1, starts actually higher than path 0. And it goes lower though. Like it starts to head into that player even more. Like this one right here is really super low. I don't want to do that. I don't want to. It might take me a minute to find it though. Come on. It's probably waypoint. Not that one. That's it. So it's part of path 3, waypoint 2. There we go. So that's probably the closest waypoint I actually have to that player. All right, so we'll go ahead and take a look as well at the script. So we go inside this enemy script here. We're not going to look at the fire and such yet. Actually, did I put it in this one? Here, give me just a minute here. Okay, so I have it here in enemy pathing and the waypoint. So we start out with the integer waypoint index 0. It's basically saying it starts on 0. And we're making a list of waypoints. So let's transform waypoints to start with here. We'll talk about the wave configurations here in just a second. So, and we use this waypoints a lot. As you see when I popped it in here, got a whole bunch of waypoints going on here. Waypoints index helps you to get the waypoints and that they all start on 0. So on the start, like I said, wave configuration here in a minute, but transform dot position, getting the position of that waypoint. We're doing the waypoint 0, like so that it starts at that particular position, and then we're finding the position here on the screen. So to get the enemy here to move though, here we go. So if it's waypoints dot count is less than 1, so it's anything that's not 0, that you're going to target position, going to get the position of that and that of the enemy, and they're going to head to that waypoint, that 0 position, that where that little diamond thing was, and we're heading into that position. We're going to take that enemy sprite and pop it right there onto that waypoint, that diamond. Okay, movement this frame. So it's going to move across the screen this frame, so like it's not like moving and you can't see it moving when it's getting ready to move. It won't like turn invisible and pop back in or something, you know. And then that's part here too of the wave configuration again, so we'll get that here in a minute. Get move speed allows it to get how fast it's going to be going, part of the wave configuration. Time.delta time is again the frames on the computer so that it doesn't slow down the computer. So, so that if all that transformed opposition again, you're getting the position of it, and you're moving towards this vector too. So you're moving the enemy ship. Maybe the enemy ship is moving. And then if it gets off, if it gets too far off, else if the waypoint is there's not enough, so waypoints dot count is like how many do you have on screen. Like if there's too many on screen, whatever was in your waypoint index, you got like 5 enemies, and then suddenly there's trying to do 6, but I only allowed for 5, then you're going to destroy the game object, because you don't want, if I said only 5 enemies instead of 6, and it has 6 and that's more of it than what we were counting on, so that's the count, then you would destroy the game object instead. Okay, so if I minimize this and I head in here and back into the thing, so if we got the enemy pathing, we discussed some of the enemy pathing already. But if we go into, I don't know, one of the enemies, let me head into an enemy again. I'm gonna head into that enemy again. Oh, come on, enemy. Alright, so that enemy pathing, and we're going to talk about all this other stuff here in a minute that's inside of there. Alright. I do not like this, the video camera here. Okay, so it's also going to start on awake. So as soon as you start the game, it'll start up for you as well. Okay, and this particular enemy, see, it's going to be on wave 2, but we'll discuss the rest of the waves here in a minute as well with the wave configuration. All right, let's pause there. Okay, back again. So we're going to go into back into the inspector, and you notice I have on this enemy pathing script, I have a wave configuration so that you know which wave they're each in. So like this particular one, this ship 01, he is in wave 2 wave configuration. Now we're going to go ahead and get into that script that's here, even though it's on the edge. There we go. So heading into the wave script. So if you we created an asset menu, enemy wave configuration. That way you can see so that's like giving that name to it, the wave configuration, which is here at the top of the inspector. See, so that's creating that name for it as well. So let me see. Yeah. Okay, so, and then, whoops. Okay, so, making these in the serialized field, game object, enemy prefab. So that's that we got the enemy, from the prefab. And then we've got the path prefab, for those serialized fields. So you can also mess with them inside of the inspector. So where are they in the game? They are down here. Let me go to my prefabs folder. You won't be able to see it unless can I drag it up? There we go. So you can see it slightly. There we go. So prefabs. Oh, not again. I hated that it does that. I'm so sorry. All right, so there's the prefab. So you can't quite see it, but this is I wonder if I can move this without it. There. Maybe, yes. Okay, so you can see it right now. You could see it at the bottom there for like 5 seconds. Here, do that. Can I, come on. Well, maybe, there. Nope. I gotta hold it, don't I, in place. Okay. Well, I won't be able to point with my mouse. But at the very bottom, you see where it has those boxes there for the prefabs. So I have the alien prefabs already made. You can see the alien 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they're made in there already. That's your prefabs. That's your prefabs for those. Then you also have, because on this one, there are path prefabs made too. And I stuck them in another folder marked paths. And if I move this up, ooh, maybe. Oh, come on. Well, you can't quite see below, but it says like path 0, 1, 2, so on and so forth. So if I go here, path 0, I'm on path 0 prefab. It's this box here. And right here in it, you can see that it contains the waypoints, and it gives you the exact waypoints. That is there, and this is what it looks like here in the inspector. Okay, so where were we? We were over here. We were in the wave configuration, because we were discussing how we were doing this. Okay, so we made a float, a time between spawns. So this has to do with enemy spawn, which is going to be the next thing that we're going to discuss here. Integer number of enemies. So like right now, I have 5 enemies, but making it a serialized field again allows game designers to change the inspector. You can lessen the number of enemies. You can make more enemies. Just gotta have the pictures. Oh, I'm so sorry. Of the new enemies, and then move speed. So this gives it, and you can make it faster. Also in the inspector as a float. So you can make it faster. You can make it slower, but it gives it a way for the game designers to affect it as well inside the inspector. All right, so right here, game object. We are getting the game object. That is the enemy prefab, and I showed you that already. And then, so once we got that, we're going to go, and that list that we made earlier for the waypoints, that's getting waypoints. Okay, so because we said that we made the list. So we're making the list of the waypoints. Okay, so for every variable of waypoints, we're going to get a new list, and we're going to go find them inside of the game. So for each child in the path prefab, okay, waypoints add child. So what does that mean? That means that you're adding that waypoint to the path. Okay, so the path prefab is the parent. The waypoint is the child. Let me go back here. So path, parent, right there, child. So waypoint 0 is a child of path 0 waypoint. There, that's probably the easiest way to explain that one. Okay, so anyway, pop over here again, and then we're going to return the waypoints once we get it. Okay, and then right here, we made some floats too. It has to do with spawning. Again, here in just a minute, we'll get to the spawning. Right here, though, right here is where you're getting the number of enemies, and you're returning the number of enemies. So, like, if I want 5 enemies, I want 5 enemies. And you won't increase or lessen the number of enemies then. And then right here is where you're also getting the movement speed, which was, we said we could change inside of the inspector, which we will take a look at here. We will take a look at here. We will take a look at here. Ah! Hate that. Really, really, really hate that. Really hate that. All right, can I? Ooh, yeah, stay. Okay. There. This is the. Oh wait, no, that's enemy shooting, so we don't want that. We want the speed of the enemy here. Okay, so that's the damages down at the end. I don't know how I'm going to bring that one up either. Okay, so, but yeah, there it's enemy pathing, and it tells that. I'm trying to find there is the projectile speed so that you can change that in the inspector as well. And then the shots counter. Okay. Oh, and that it has to, I forgot about that, but rigid two bodies, they have to be kinematic as well, so that they can move around. If they were, because you could make them static. If they were static, they would stay like in place and they wouldn't be moving around. But you need them to be able to move around for the AI to work properly as well. Okay, let's pause there for a second. Okay, and we're going to also take a look here too at the spawn random factor and the time between spawns. So this making a float of getting the time between spawns and returning time between spawns gives it like a break in between each spawn. Otherwise, it'd spawn constantly, possibly, or hardly spawn at all. The spawn random factor allows it to have some random spawn so that it's not as it allows it so that you can't like you can't pick up a complete pattern with it. Random factor allows it to have slight bit of randomness to the spawn. Okay, so there's that, and over here made them both floats as well, so that and that's where we call them up here in the serialized field, time between spawns and spawning the random factor as well, so that you can mess with them as well. And I guess if you really want, you can even go back into the code and mess with the time between spawn, or mess with the random factor and make it more of a randomness between the spawns or less of a randomness between the spawns. Okay, so now we're taking a look inside of the enemy spawner script. Made serialized field, the list, the wave configuration, because we set that up in the other one there. We set up a wave configuration. Config is short for configuration. So we're getting that list. We're retrieving that list from the wave configuration script there, and we're getting those wave configurations again. We're going to do a starting wave. We're going to start it at 0, like right at the very beginning there. And we're setting up the loops too, so that they'll keep spawning in. Like this is like a never-ending game. It ends when the player dies, so that it has a loop there. Setting up a coroutine for it. So the start of the enumerator, start of the coroutine, we're going to return the start of the coroutine. And this coroutine is down here too, so we'll take a look at that here in a second. But the coroutine is when we're going to spawn all waves. That means all the waves that we had set up in there, all those paths, all those waves that will set up for all of them to spawn in. They'll start spawning the waves. So while looping, so that it's going to keep looping it so that it constantly continues until player dies. All right, so for the spawn all waves, called it, and this is what it does. This is the function. So for integer wave index, because we set up the wave index, we baited out to 0 at first. You're going to get your starting wave. So you're going to get that half 0, those first 3, 4 waypoints, whatever I had for that. So you're going to get a wave index, and it's counting the number of wave configurations that we have. So it's counting number of waypoints. It's counting the number of wave configurations. It's starting to enact that. Okay, so the current wave is going to equal whatever wave configuration you are on from the wave index, but it has to call the wave index each time to get that wave configuration. And then it's going to return this coroutine where it's spawning all these enemies in. And the current wave is whichever wave it's on. So like if it's on wave 2, that way it doesn't mess up when it goes on to a new wave. It knows which wave it's on by saying it's at a current wave. Okay, so then spawn all enemies in wave. We're calling wave configuration script. we're calling this wave configuration. So they have to communicate. So this enemy spawner has to communicate with my wave configuration script just showed you just a minute ago. The other script, the one that's here, the one that's there. So this was the wave configuration script, you know, where you're starting the enemy prefabs and you path prefabs, and we said enemy prefabs like the sprite, and you pulled it down into the other screen, and that it becomes prefab and has all its objects and everything attached to it. You don't have to keep sticking in all these things again, like the colliders and the rigid bodies, and you don't have to do that again and again. If you have it as a prefab, you pull it down into the other screen, and then it's you can mess with it there, and you can affect the whole thing all at the same time. Makes it a bit easier to work with if you have this prefab. Anyway, back to enemy spawner. Okay, so they're going to count the number of enemies. It's starting at 0. And if the enemy counter is less, so there's less enemies that's being counted than the number of wave configurations, you're going to get the number of enemies, because in order to have a wave of enemies, you're going to have enemies. You're going to have the number of enemies. So it's going to count those number of enemies. Okay, so then variable is a new enemy. Instantiate means it's going to get, it's going to start, it's looking for it, it's enacting it, I guess you could say, inside of Unity. It's just starting that wave configuration. In order to start that wave configuration, you need to get that enemy prefab, because it's gotta have an enemy in order to start the wave of enemies. And then it's also getting those waypoints to know how to move the enemy and which waypoint they're headed to. Transform.position, where is it in the world? Where is it on the X and the Y position? And then rotation, querying identity is the rotation, so that it doesn't rotate differently, or it doesn't flip the sprite on its edge, and then that would just look awful. Alright, so the new enemy gets the new enemy. It gets pathfinding. It tells it which path. It finds the path then and sets the wave configuration. You have to have the wait for seconds so that they don't like all spawn at the same time. And they're waiting a couple of seconds in between each spawn, so that it, otherwise if you get all the waves all at once, you're not going to survive. It will be a very boring game because you'll die like instantly. And then you scan the time between spawns again, so that it could enact all this in the game. Alright, so if we go back over here, let's put some of these off. Okay, so we did the enemy spawn movement. We've definitely talked about that. We definitely have a wave. We said about waves and paths and waypoints. We're not on enemies can shoot yet, are we? Okay. We haven't talked about projectiles yet, or the health yet. Okay. Alrighty. Oh, we did talk about these move speeds, though. Yeah, because the game designer, we said that we could change the move speed for player. We can change the move speed for the enemy. We did discuss these waypoints. And we are able to now spawn multiple enemies. Okay. And the enemies can take different paths, because we showed you that. Alright. Oh, we have time between enemy spawns. And random factor to be with that random factor in there. You're not able to pick up much of a pattern, because there's just a slight element of randomness in that as well. And we said multiple types of enemies, so like that's all those ships at the top, bunch of ships for that. Yeah. We said colliders because we have the colliders as well. So we have the 2D collider. So I know I showed that. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, so there's those. Oh, we got into a bunch of them just now. Alright, so let me go in this one, and so we said enemy movement. Sorry, this is how I keep myself orderly. We said it's connected to paths. All right, connected to the movement, allows for multiple waves. All right, we discussed that. We discussed the different paths. The enemy spawner, different waves. We discussed that. We did player can shoot. Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. Smart chem off. We didn't do the enemy shoot yet, though. We didn't do the enemy shoot yet. We didn't do that yet. We discussed the game loop, though, because we talked about that it loops constantly, and that's connected to each of these. Okay. And we discussed the waypoints. Yeah. And enemy spawner. All right. We discussed enemy move speed. Waypoints. We have the waypoints. Yep. And we did multiple enemies, and we did multiple paths. All right. Tick them off here. Time between enemy spawns, random spawn, we discussed that. Multiple spawns. Okay. Colliders make it possible for enemies to get hit. Okay, so there we go. Colliders. All right, so that discusses that part of that. So why is that? All right, we're gonna pause there for a second. Okay, so I'm also gonna go ahead and explain this maybe a little bit better here. So for this particular function here, for set wave config, we are trying to set which wave configuration we're on, so that for this part, that each particular enemy knows which particular path they're on. They know which wave configuration they're on. So we're getting this wave configuration. We're getting it to set it to it so that they know which waves they're on. And for this, we're getting this class. We're getting this variable. So this over here is like this class, this wave config at the top of this particular script, this wave config. So then also, if you notice that because this wave config, this script is the enemy pathing script. But we're using that inside of the other script. We're using this particular wave config in the other scripts. So back inside of this, the enemy spawner, for instance. So we're going that when we're creating this enemy, so we're getting a new enemy and instantiate. We're starting it, and then we're finding that wave configuration again to get that enemy prefab and to get those waypoints. Then we're looking at this new enemy, and we want something within inside of this new enemy. So we're getting the component, we're getting that enemy pathing. We're referring back to the other script of any enemy pathing to set that wave configuration so that it's got to communicate with that enemy pathing script. So if we take a look again here too with this coroutine here to spawn always for the IEnumerator. So we got the integer wave index. So we're trying to find that wave index that's at the top, and we're trying to find the starting wave. So it's at the top too. So we made that serialized field integer so that you can change the inspector if you want. And our starting wave is at 0. Then we're getting that wave index. So we're going back to the wave index. We're finding that wave index. And then its count is how many are there? How many are there inside of there? So for the return, it's returning what's the current one? What is the current wave? Where is it? Because they counted it. So that's what is the current wave that we are on right now. So for that one, you've got to start this coroutine of spawn all enemy waves. So you're starting this. You're starting this code here to spawn all enemy waves. It's gonna keep going and until it stops. So wave index plus plus. It just keeps going. And then it's finding that current wave, the wave that it's on right now. So then in order to talk about a bit about the loop as well, so we made the Boolean. We made the Boolean loop up here. And then down here is where we get to it. So do, while this is true. While we're going to do this, we're going to, as soon as we call the IEnumerator, the core routine, we're going to return the start core routine. The start core routine that's down here, we're going to start it to spawn all those enemy waves. So we're starting this. We're going to do that while it's looping. So while it's going to constantly loop to make it a while looping. So yield, while it's doing it, we're going to jump back up to start, and while it's doing this, it's going to loop it. So it's going to finish that, come back to start, and do it again, and so that it keeps looping in order to get that game loop for the enemies. Okay, after that, we're going to talk about the damage script that both of them use. Both the enemy uses it and the player uses it. They both use the script to get things done. So we have a damage dealer script, a serialized field, an integer with damage that equals 100. I made it serialized field so that you can change it in the inspector. You can give the player more health or less health, or the enemy more health, less health. So you're going to get the damage. That's the whole purpose of this function right here. You're going to return the amount of damage that you get. If the object is hit, then it's going to destroy that game object so that it destroys the enemies. It gives the player the ability to hit and kill those enemies in this script. So back inside of the enemy script, you have to give the enemy health in order for that damage to work. So serialized float, health 100, so that that enemy can start at 100 health to get that to work. So the enemy script is going to have to talk to the damage dealer script. And this is where this function here takes place. So private void on trigger enter 2D. So when it enters that 2D area, you're going to get that collider, that 2D collider, so that it allows collision between the player's projectile and the enemy spaceship. You're going to call that script, that damage dealer script that I just made, and get the damage dealer. Then you're getting the component damage dealer from that object. The game object is the projectile, the player's projectile. So because the projectiles have damage dealer script on them. So if we have a damage dealer, if we're seeing damage on it, then you're going to process the hit of damage dealer. In order to process the hit, here we go. So we're calling that damage dealer script again, damage dealer. So if health is minus or equal to the damage dealer, we're going to get damage, meaning if the health is less than or equal to getting damage, it's been hit. If the player's projectile hits the enemy spaceship, then it's going to cause it to be minus or equal to the damage dealer. It's been hit. So damage dealer was hit. So if the health, this gives the opportunity to die, if the health is less than or equal to 0, then that spaceship is going to die. And this brings up what occurs when it dies. Because we have score here, but we haven't talked about yet, so we're going to ignore that for right now. This has to do with this has to do with the VFX and such. So we're going to skip it. And we're going to skip the audio. But what we really need out of here for right now is when the object dies. When the enemy spaceship dies, you're going to destroy the game object. You're going to destroy that enemy spaceship if their health is less than or equal to 0. Yeah, they're gonna die. And then here, destroy explosion. So this is part of the VFX. So we'll get to it in a minute, like I said. But there, that gives you the damage dealer, the ability to have health, and the ability to die. Well, that the player can indeed kill the enemy sprite. Alright, so I'll stop there for just a second. Okay, so just to take a look at it here inside of the Unity. So you're on the player, there's my player's ship, and you've got the health. So right here is where you could change player health. You know, so because we said that we're getting into health now, player health, enemy health. So this is player health, for instance, and player laser. So that they can, and then so what we need is to take a look here at the player laser. Then we'll go back and take a look at enemies as well. Give me just a minute here to bring up player laser. Come on, come on, come on. I'll pause it again since it's going to be a pain in the tushy again. Why? Oh, hey, it did it. Yay. Ah. I get so mad at this. Okay, so pretty fast. Alright, so I need the player laser. There we go, player laser. Let's bring it back over here. Back over here. Alright, so there's the sprite with the player laser as well. To get it, there we go. So, damage dealer. So there's the damage dealer script on the player laser. And damage is at 100, so it's going to take 100 from those enemy ships every time. Now, if we go into an enemy ship, do I really have to pause you? Come on. Okay, what if I go big? Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna go back into an enemy. There we go, enemy. Well, actually, I'll go ahead and focus on that enemy too. Be a good idea. There we go. Focused on enemy. All right, so I'm in the enemy. Now, so the health there. So that's how we got the enemy, because we have the enemy script, and we've been doing that in the enemy script and in pathing. Oh, this one too, I forgot to tell you about that. See, but you could change it if you want to. Like right now, this enemy is on the wave 2, so we talked about that too with the paths. So this is the path system as well. So there, he's on wave 2. I can move him to wave 3, 4, 5, 6. I can move him to whichever wave configuration I want. I forgot about that in the thing. So that gives you the ability to move him around. All right. So, but anyway, health is at 100. So he's going to start at 100. So this particular enemy, he's going to instantly die. Because we saw that the damage dealer on the player is at 100, but we can play with these and they can have different values. So if I made him 200 for his health, there we go. If I made him 200, that means the player is going to have 2 hits, since that damage dealer on the player is only taking 100 off each time. So there you go. And then score, well, we're not quite at score, talking about score yet with that as well. And we're not quite to, we're headed into enemy shot right now. So we're heading in here to to killing the enemy as well here. But anyway, yeah, so that shows you where the health is inside it as well. And then way down here is, I can't even do it. Damage dealer script's way at the bottom, and I can't seem to bring it up. I hate this camera. I absolutely hate this camera software. Oh by golly. Alright, well it's by the bottom. It's on the bottom is the damage dealer, and it's saying damage is 200 on the class there. Okay, so seriously. Alright, let's pause there for a minute. So, to give you an idea too with the enemy, able to shoot, for the enemy to be able to shoot. So we already have that. We talked about the float health, so that's the 100. And we're not quite at score yet. We've got to talk about shooting before we can get to score. So we have a float, we have a shot counter, and it's exactly what it says. It's counting the number of shots. And then we have a float, the minimum time, and a float maximum time between min, max, minimum, maximum. Time between shots. So how long are we waiting between shots? That way it's not completely constant, killing the player right off the bat. So we have it set at a 0.2F and a 3F, but serialized field, so that you can get to it inside the inspector, and game designers can play with those times between shots. I like it this way for right now, though. And then you're getting the game object of the projectile, that missile that this enemy is going to shoot at the player, and they all have these projectiles. You can actually technically have different projectiles if we really want to. Just play with the pictures then inside of it this way, especially if it's in the serialized field for them to play with. Projectile speed is how fast that bullet, that laser, that projectile is going at the player from the enemy. So that all has to do with setting up, getting it ready to shoot. So on object, on start, you can count the number of shots here. So range is right here. That's for the volume, so we won't do with that as much. But minimum, maximum between shots, so it's saying how long between shots again. And then down here, countdown and shoot. So every update, every time it updates, every time it called per frame, it's going to count down and shoot. That's how long it can, how fast it can shoot and such. So shot counter is minus or equal to time dot delta time. Delta time is the frames on the computer, so that you don't slow down the computer without it. You would slow down the computer. So the shot counter, if your shot counter is less than or equal to 0, then you're going to fire. So you haven't, if it's 0, you haven't fired yet. So the enemy hasn't fired yet. If the enemy hasn't fired yet, it's less than 0, it's equal to 0, they're going to fire. So fire, shot counter, random range, minimum and maximum between shots again. So that random range gives them that ability to have a random factor to how it's firing between shots. So that's a bit more difficult to pick up on some type of pattern with it, and it adds an element of randomness to it. So for that, okay, so for your firing, so this is the enemy fire. We're gonna shoot, because right here is where it's calling it to fire. So you need, how does it fire? All right, so when you're doing the fire function, they're going to grab the game object, the laser, the projectile, I just called it laser. Instantiate, we're going to start it. We're going to start the projectile. We're going to find the position of the projectile, of that bullet, of that laser, of that thing. And find the rotation. Criterion identity, I'm going to get the rotation as the game object. Okay, so we're going to get the component, and we're getting the 2D rigid body of that projectile. We're getting make sure that it has shape and that it's there. Okay, and then we're going to get the velocity of it to create the vector 2. So x side is 0 minus y side is the projectile speed. So how fast is it going to go? This part here has to do with the SFX, so we'll get to that later. And then that's when it pulls down here, the damage dealer. So it's headed into the damage dealer script. That's where it's pulling that again. And if it's damage dealer, you're going to return. We're going to process the hit. Health, we did that one already too. We said if its health is less than equal to 0, health less than equal to 0, then the object is going to die. So it's processing out. And the damage dealer, since the damage dealer script is also on the player, This gives the ability for the enemy to kill off the player. Otherwise, you'll just play forever and never die. Okay. So that kind of explains here some here about the firing concept here of the game. Okay, so another thing too about the hitting and collision and such, if you go up to edit and then project settings, summon project settings, and you go down to physics 2D, that allows you to see what all is going on too inside of it to create the collision. So it's able to hit the triggers. So it's able to go into the box, the trigger box, the trigger meaning start something. Start and colliders. So it has colliders to give you an instant. But down here is the matrix, and I think I stuck that in my technical document as well. So this allows everything to play off of each other here. So basically, so what it's saying, like the player is going to be able to hit the enemy projectile can hit the player, right? The enemy can hit the player. If they hit the player takes damage. So you have to have this matrix as well, working with it so that you can see the layers and that they can hit each other. The enemy has to have player projectile. That way it will if the player projectile, if the player's laser beam, bullet, whatever, hits the enemy will then get hurt. And yeah, so you have to have this up and checked accordingly, so that it can read the other things, like the projectiles themselves. Like there are no boxes here by this player projectile and enemy projectile, because they can't really die. I mean, they're bullets, so they're not. The bullets don't have health attached to them. The bullets can't die. They will destroy the game object when they float off screen and they hit those boundaries that we talked about earlier. But they're bullets. They can't die the way the enemy and the player is able to die, because they have health. They have a script for health. They have a life and death. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take a look here and see if we can get anything else off of this as well. See, we talked about health and player. We've talked about those, so we can mark those off for this health system, I guess we could say, which will lead us with menu still. Oh, projectiles made for enemies to shoot. Yep, we've made we've seen the projectiles. We still need to talk about score, main menu, game over menu. But we said when the enemy reaches 0, he dies. Oh no, stop that. Oh my gosh. All right, when the player reaches 0, player dies. So I'm gonna, say that we did this. We said the colliders make it possible for an enemy to use the health system. Okay, so we have health. So I think we can mark off the rest of those colliders. All right. We said different amounts of hit points, because we said you could change it in the inspector. You could change the number of hit points, and they could be different. You can make a boss thin. You can make it have higher hit points and take more to hit. And we said the cooldowns, like cooldown between shots and enemy waves. Yep, we did that as well, so we can get that off of there. So we're headed near the end of this here. There we go. All right, and then I'm going to do it on Excel as well, since I also have Excel. Ooh, I talked about paths a while ago. I talked about the pathing system a while ago. Talked about player can shoot, enemy can shoot. We are not on the particle system yet. We talked about projectiles. We talked about health. All right, we did not make it to, oh no. Ah, man, where'd it go? There we go. All right. We talked about health. Yeah, we talked about player health. We talked about enemy health. We talked about game loops. We talked about waypoints. Firing. Enemy death. Yep. Different enemies. Cooldown. There we go. So we're particle systems, menus, score, VFX, and SFX as well. So yeah, almost done. Almost done. All right. And we're going to stop it here and continue it here in a bit.